Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 58. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson, and I'm here with Julian Pombo.
Hi.
Hi. How's you?
Oh, fine. I'm going to say it again. Same old. Nothing's changed.
It's weird doing another podcast because we've done 2 in 1 week. Just with schedules and stuff.
We did them quite close together. It does feel a little strange.
It feels wrong.
We need to change it to Saturdays now. That's when we need to record anyway.
Yeah. So how's your week been?
Oh, fine. Not much. Cooking, eating, editing, practicing. Just really trying to write some stuff. You know, that's it really. You know, nothing new or interesting really to. Yet. I've started playing chess by myself. That's a new one.
What?
So I've got a chess board. I'll see if I can show you actually.
I imagine playing chess by yourself is like sitting on a seesaw by yourself, kind of pointless.
There you go. So that's my chessboard set up there, and the little koala is just to remind me which turn it is, like if it's white's turn or if it's black's turn, and I'm just treating it kind of like I'm just kind of treating it a bit like a sort of puzzle.
Right.
That's how I'm sort of going about it. So
right.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, it's definitely a lot slower. You know, because I'm really trying to think about moves and stuff. I'm not really concerned about if white's gonna win or if black's gonna win. I'm just like,
let's see what happens.
What's the best move that I can do?
Yeah.
After you know, so I'm on my way to becoming a psychopath, I think. Next, you know, in the next couple of weeks, you'll be hearing about weird chess murders.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be taking up ping pong next, like single player ping pong.
Yeah, it's like squash, but less exciting. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'll be playing with 2 paddles, like. Anyway.
So.
Well, which kind of actually, that kind of example kind of leads on pretty well onto the subject that we're talking about.
I suppose so, yeah. So,
yeah.
I kind of alluded to something at the end of the last episode.
Yeah.
So wanted to talk about this. This idea came around. I was listening to. It was a student who was learning, I think, piano,
right?
And I could hear how they were doing. You could hear the teacher playing a piece and playing it fluently, and then the student not playing it fluently. And it got me thinking about what it was like to learn an instrument when I started out, and the thing that happens when you start to get good. So what I'm talking about is flow state. So I'll give a brief sort of description of what flow state is. So the definition I could find that was kind of most fitting is flow state is a psychological mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement and enjoyment in the process of the activity. So that's a lot of words. And with regards to music, I would say that's the point at which you become proficient enough in what you are playing so that you can just sit back and enjoy the music without really giving it a second thought. So the reason I bring up the student thing is when you're first learning a piece of music, it doesn't matter how skilled you are. I'm just taking like early like education as an example. You don't know what it feels like to be proficient enough to play a piece of music comfortably and enjoy it. You're only thinking about getting it right to begin with. And I would say we all remember that moment in our early lessons when you finally got it. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be Merrily We Roll Along, which was, for me, that was my first piano piece I ever played. And the moment where you understand where the fingers need to be on the keyboard, and it just clicks, and then you're no longer thinking about how I'm going to get it right. You're just going to get it right because it's become intuitive, and then you can just sit back in the music and enjoy it, and you become immersed in it, and it's quite a good feeling. And this is not just exclusive to musicians. This is exclusive to humans, I would say, in general.
Yeah, literally anybody that does anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll dive a wee bit into how you would consider something flow state. So from what I could find, there's a guy who's done, when I say guy, I mean psychologist, I imagine, whose name I can't pronounce, so I'm not even going to attempt it.
Let me see if I can give it a shot, because I know the guy that you're talking
about. You know
the
the guy, was he Swiss or Czech or something? Or Belgian?
I think he... let me have a look. I think it's a Czech name, now that I'm looking at it. I'm gonna... Mihai?
Yeah, it's the one, yeah.
Mihai what? Csikszentmihalyi. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
Something.
That's how you pronounce that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm listening to I'm basically just doing my best at copying what the guy's saying.
Okay, yeah.
Csikszentmihalyi, which is, looking at that, how all those letters are put together,
yeah.
I would just been Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. So Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
So
it's a cool name.
He's done a lot of work on identifying what flow state is. So these are kind of the things that you have to meet in order for it to be flow state. So number one, knowing what to do. So that's your goal, right? That's the thing that you are doing. I want to play a piece of music, whether it's by myself or in a band, doesn't really matter. Or I want to edit videos, or I want to play a video game, or it could be anything. Cooking.
Yeah. Even in the video game, like, you need to set micro goals, otherwise you're like,
yeah.
It's not as simple as just, I'm going to play the video game. And like, it's the same thing. It's like, it's not as simple as like, I'm going to play the guitar. It's like, what are you actually going to do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Number two, knowing how to do it. So that's the competence thing.
Yeah.
Because you can't achieve flow state if you don't know what you're doing. It's impossible. Because you're just, like I said, you're constantly worrying about getting it wrong, thinking, how am I not going to get this wrong? To even be concerned with flow state. The third one is knowing how well you are doing. So that's competence plus confidence. So you're confident in your abilities. Knowing, it's basically the opposite of Dunning-Kruger. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is when you don't know enough to know how bad you are. So your knowledge of the thing you are doing is so limited that you don't even have enough knowledge to evaluate how bad you are.
Yeah. So a lot of people just tend to completely overestimate
how good
their ability.
Yeah. So this is the opposite. This is, you know how well you are doing. So you are competent in what you're doing, and you're also confident that you are doing it well. I mean, you might not necessarily be doing it well because, I mean, you can have someone who can only play 3 chords achieve flow state if they're playing those 3 chords really proficiently, but they might not be able to play 4 chords, but you can still achieve flow state. But as long as what you are doing is, to your knowledge, as competent as you can get doing that thing, then that's so that's where the next bit comes in. I'll jump one because that kind of ties in better. High perceived skills. So basically what that means is operating within the limits of your skill range. So if you can't achieve flow if you are performing something that is beyond your skill, because obviously you'll just fall apart, and that's not flow. And if it's too low, like say your skill level is up here and the thing you're playing is way down there, you're just going to be bored. You've got to maintain some sort of level of, even if you're playing something simple, like say, I don't know, just a simple 3-chord tune. You might say, "Oh, that's kind of simple. I'm more advanced than that." But you can operate in that simple framework, but doing complex things. So, like, your dynamics. You're thinking about your dynamics. You're thinking about your relationship to the other instruments in the band. There's so much going on, even in simple songs. Like you say often that like country music gets a bad rap for being like, oh, simple dimple music, but like doing
it's actually one of the honestly, I think it's one of the hardest pieces of like styles of music to play properly. You know, because like it is a part of it is like the simplicity, right? I really don't like it when, and this is not just country, it's like a lot of different styles of music, you know, like if you play the temptation is always to play more and more and more, and you know, play really fast, really intricate, I don't know, licks or whatever. It's just like, no, just serve the purpose of the music. You know? So like with bass lines, yes, I'm gonna play root 5th. Sometimes I'll play the 6th. You know? But like that's what I'm gonna be playing, you know, for my bass lines. And it serves the purpose of the music perfectly.
Yeah.
You know? As soon as you start getting too involved, it doesn't sound like country music anymore. It sounds like country musicians and one idiot, you know?
Yeah. It makes me think of...
But
it makes me think of Ringo a little bit.
Yes, there's a fantastic video.
Really?
I need to send it to you.
Yeah.
But there's a guy who like plays... I can't remember which song it is. It's... I can't remember the name of it, but it goes da 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 da.
In my life?
No.
In my life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my life, yeah. And he's like, this is how Ringo plays it like Ringo. This is how a proficient drummer
yeah, I think I've seen this.
It.
I think I've seen this, yeah.
And it's like, oh, right, okay, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's very interesting.
I'm thinking about the drum beat in Something, the George Harrison song. The drum beat is just genius. See in the verse. Now you've got the triplet tom, so it's so Ringo plays in the verse, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. That's all he plays. No cymbals, no messing about. And at the end of every phrase, he goes do 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 doom, boom, ga, boom, ga. It's just so simple. Yet the feel that man produces along with that, he's such a musical drummer. He's playing within his skill range, and it's still amazingly competent.
Yeah.
Like it's just like other drummers will say, like what he's playing is the simplest thing ever, but he's so good at it. Do you know what I mean? Like, is doing simple well. He's like the definition of that. Doing something simple really, really well. That's
100%.
said this before, but that's where the money is. So next one, knowing where to go. So that's if navigation is involved. So knowing where to go. If you're playing in a band, the direction of the song, obviously that dictates where you're going to go. But I would say, like, with flow state doesn't really care about the end goal. It's kind of a process. It's a process more than an end goal, because when you're in that flow state, you're doing the thing currently. It's very present tense. It doesn't really, like, when flow state happens when I mix a song as well. Now, obviously, the end goal is the song's mixed, but the flow state doesn't care that the song's mixed. The flow state is just like, oh, I'm in the zone and I'm making things sound good, and I'm grabbing things intuitively, and I'm opening up reverbs and closing EQs and opening up compressors, and I'm not even thinking about it. It just becomes second nature, to the point where I'm not even aware of the room I'm in. I don't even pay attention. I'm just fully focused on what I'm doing. And it's the same with playing in a band. So we've done the knowing where to go and the high perceived skills. So that depends on what you're playing. High perceived challenges. Now, the way I read that was it's got to give you an incentive to want to play it. Because if it's like,
gotcha.
If it's, I don't know, if it's below what you're, if it's not pushing you, there's no real drive or goal. It's like when I'm mixing a song, the desired goal is the mixed song. So obviously the goal matters. But once you get in that flow state, it means that everything's working as expected. When a song is not playing nice, now sometimes I'll come in and I'll try and I'll do exactly the same as what I always do. But some songs, whether it's the way they've been produced or whatever, it's usually produced by me, so it's usually my fault. Things are just not gelling, and I can never achieve that flow because I'm constantly battling with things.
Yeah.
So when you overcome that and you get that flow, it's like, oh yes, it's working now. Like there was a problem and I fixed it. It could be like clashing guitar parts or something, like something's not gelling, and then when you get it working, it's like, oh, that's it now.
Yeah, totally.
So
in terms of playing your instrument, it can be like, it can be something as simple as like, your guitar's not set up right, or there's something not working. Your lead is crackling, and the sound's off. So
that ties in well with the last one, which is freedom from distractions, which is so important.
Yes, 100%. It's difficult, man. It's so difficult now because there are too many distractions.
Yep.
If you think back to like, I don't know, like the 19th century, right? How many distractions did you have? Like a wheel and a stick. So that's why a lot of people either spent a lot of time reading if they were illiterate, or learning a musical instrument, be it, 19th century, they would have been learning things like guitar, violin, piano, like every house, or like most households had a piano, if not because it was a nice piece of furniture, but it was getting used.
Yeah. Before that, it was harmoniums and organs and things like that.
Yeah, and at the time, that was like, that is your distraction,
Yeah.
Whereas now we're like, I don't want to sound like a boomer, but I guess I am going to. Like there's constant distractions all the time on your computer, on your phone, just like email notifications pinging at you constantly, and Instagram this, Facebook that, Messenger this, Discord's doing this.
Yeah.
It's It's tough.
I made a decision about 2 years ago now to turn off
Mhm.
all notifications on my phone that aren't messages or flagged important emails. So where people can mark as like urgent. So I have certain people marked as urgent. So if I get an email from them, say it's a client and it's an emergency, they're like, "Oh, I need this changed. Like, we need it for tomorrow."
Yeah.
Then I'll get that. But emails about discounts on some website thing, I don't get.
Yeah.
I mute group chats that I'm not actively a part of. So everyone's part of a group chat that isn't important. If you say it's your band chat, I wouldn't mute that. But if it's a friend chat, I would mute that so that it's not pinging all day. And then when you sit down at night, say, or when your spare time, you can open up the app and see what you've missed. If it's not important stuff, then it doesn't need to take up your life.
Yeah. Another thing to do with this is something I picked up. It was one of the few positive things I picked up from doing my postgrad diploma in education, which I never finished. But basically, set a time to just not get any notifications at all.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You can do that. It's just called, there's a setting on your Android phone. I'm sure it's probably an Apple as well. Just do not disturb.
Do not disturb, yeah.
And you can set it for the same time every day. And for me, because one of the teachers that I had would email me at like midnight.
Yeah.
And would stress me out. I was like, no, I'm dealing with this later on at night.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be one of these sickos that like runs on like 4 hours of sleep. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Like, it's probably why I failed, or just wasn't strong enough.
I don't think so.
I'm joking.
No, definitely not.
That was it's a joke. You know, you have to. All teachers are Spartans, basically. You know, it's like I failed the teacher equivalent of like getting thrown off a cliff as a baby. You know, they're like, "Oh, this baby sucks."
Yeah.
Never mind. We'll get another one.
Yeah. Yeah, like if I get an email from a client at 12:30 at night, there's no way I'm going to email that back. Like what I'll do, like say if I'm sitting in bed and it comes in and it's a quick thing, it'll only take me 2 minutes to reply. I might reply and set it to schedule send for the morning, because what happens is,
you don't want people to get the wrong idea that you'll just like
reply at night,
email them back.
Exactly.
Reply anytime.
It encourages bad behavior.
Yes.
You get what you reward for, as they say. So if you send emails when you don't want to be emailed, well, that's your fault. They're going to email you back at that time because they think it's okay. I like the do not disturb thing. I have my phone goes on to do not disturb at midnight and comes back on like 8:30 in the morning or something. Even in the morning, like I could be up and my phone is still on do not disturb. I don't want to look at it until my day started and I've had my breakfast and all that. Like why? It's pointless.
Totally.
So that's a whole other discussion. Distractions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I'll go back into the kind of flow state thing. Like I don't know if I'm right here in saying this, but it could be argued that the allure of flow state is why anyone would want to continue learning an instrument. Because that buzz you get from working hard on a piece of music and then eventually getting it, that feeling of, oh, I got it, and I'm able to just play it and it's great. I want to get that feeling again. Do you think there's anything in that?
Totally. And a part of it is it's down to the teacher. So I try, you know, like when I teach people, I try to teach them to enjoy doing the difficult stuff and try to get into that sort of flow state kind of thing.
Yep.
Kind of idea, and a lot of that is to do with there's different little exercises and things like that you can use, repetitive practicing like repetitive patterns and things like that, and but yeah, no, totally, I definitely, flow state is one of the reasons you keep playing an instrument. I don't know that anybody goes into, I've not had a student come up to me and is like, I want to learn how to play this because I want to achieve flow state.
Yeah, of course, they'll never say that.
But you get taught. A good teacher should teach you how to be able to sort of get into that state. And you can definitely tell with the kids that really pick up on it. They just, they enjoy practicing. They enjoy playing.
Yeah.
They look forward to the lessons.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I think that's
I say this
part of it
because I played clarinet at school for a year and a bit, and I never achieved flow state playing clarinet, which is probably the reason why I gave up.
Yeah, man.
Like, my teacher never, looking back, I would learn a thing, she would say, play this, and I would play it-ish. I would get a sound, and then we would move on immediately. She didn't allow enough time for me to get comfortable. It was totally different for drums, because I gave up clarinet because I was like, I don't enjoy this. I'm not enjoying it. You don't really enjoy anything you're bad at. You just don't.
No.
Right?
You don't. And that's the other difficult part, is that, it doesn't matter what stage you're at, you're always going to be bad at something.
Yeah.
I think part of achieving flow state is learning to enjoy being bad at something for a bit.
Yeah.
Until you can work hard enough to do it. And there's a couple of good sort of techniques that you can use to do that. So, for example, I used to love reading. I then stopped reading, and I was like, I want to get back into reading again. I'm still terrible at reading. I don't read as I want to read more often, just because I do enjoy it. Like, once again, it's a flow state thing. Once you start getting into the flow, you'll have sunk like 200, 300 pages and without realizing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one way that you can do that is video editing. That was another one. This one's probably better. Better example. I used to really suck at video editing, and it used to take me ages.
Yep.
And I would struggle and photo editing and stuff like that. So what did I do? And it's a really stupid thing. I like coffee. So before I started, I'd make myself a big old cup of coffee. Depending on the time of day, it would be decaf, because I've gotten to that point where I can't be drinking loads of caffeine and like go to sleep.
No,
like it doesn't happen. No, it affects me a lot more now. But I make myself a nice cup of coffee, and I'm enjoying drinking my coffee, and I'm doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you just go.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes part of the thing. Do you know what I mean? So like that's kind of one example. Or if I'm doing like photo editing, like if I'm making thumbnails or something like that, because I have to make quite a few of them. It can be quite repetitive. I listen to an album that I'm enjoying, and I do that. And before you know it, you're deep into it.
Yep.
Obviously, there's different things. Like what you can use to achieve that will depend on what you're doing, right? So, like, you can't exactly, unless you're learning an album, I guess, you can't listen to an album and practice your scales. That doesn't work.
It's a distraction.
This is going to sound a little bit controversial, but if I'm doing like a really repetitive exercise on guitar, right? Something to like work on my speed, which would be like one of these kind of exercises. Like, it's not musical at all.
No.
It's like, yeah, super boring. You do that with a metronome. I actually have a metronome in the background. I play that and I watch something interesting.
Right.
Now, I don't recommend doing that all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of those things that helps you ease into it. Or even better, rather than watching something, listening to an audiobook, a podcast, something like that. I'm just thinking of different things that I've done.
Yeah.
That kind of help me, you know.
Yeah, like some people can do that. I never could. I have to be very focused in what I'm doing. Some people could study at school, like study for exams with music. You know, they would go to their study room and then they would play music. I'm like, how?
Well, I mean, for me, it needs to be instrumental, because as soon as lyrics, you start to hear. I don't understand people that can study and like listen to actual songs. I'm like,
yeah,
because as soon as a song starts, I'm concentrating on that song.
For me, it's just any sound at all.
What it's saying,
like
any sound,
nothing. It has to be nothing. Yeah. Pigeons, even. Like I remember there was one time we, when I was doing my higher exams, our school was quite old. Like it was knocked down 2 years after, or a year after I left. So it was quite old. So there's pigeons living in the roof, and they would just make noise all the time. So in the big assembly hall where we were doing our exams, you would just hear this for like 2 hours.
Goodness.
I was like, I just can't. Can you please get rid of these pigeons? But everyone else is like fine, but it's. I don't have ADHD or anything. Like it's just
no.
I just like. I like to remove all distractions.
Yeah, totally.
It's hard to overcome that.
You know, for sure. I think most people are gonna fall into like two camps, which is like you need to get rid of everything and anything.
Yeah.
And for some people, for me, some people can like, I definitely try, and I did this with video games actually. You know, because one of the problems that I had was that. Well, it's not exactly a problem, you know, it just shows that I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
But I play a game, and then before I know it, 6 hours have gone by, and I'm like...
Whoopsie doopsie.
Oops. You know?
It's quite interesting, like...
And you feel terrible as well. You're like, oh, I've wasted the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's a separate point. What I started doing is just actively going, I'm only going to play this up until this certain point, and then I'm gonna come off, or setting an alarm, and just being conscious of. I don't know. What I'm trying to sort of say is that I after a while I learned to sort of be conscious of all the distractions that are available to me, and sometimes some days are worse than others, but usually I can. I'm sure Rachel would disagree with this. She's like, no, you don't. You get distracted all the time. But I try to just ignore them, and that's hard. Yeah. Like just actively choosing no is a really hard thing to do. It takes a lot of willpower, and willpower is a limited resource at the end of the day. There's been some studies that have shown that just willpower is a limited human resource, and you start off with lots of willpower, and as you use it day by day, like during the day, it gets worse and worse and worse.
Right.
You have less and less and less, and then you know you're more easily tempted by other things,
distractions
and things like that. So it does take a lot of willpower, but eventually it just becomes you stop sort of thinking actively using your willpower to sort of stop yourself, and it just becomes a part of the thing. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna use this or that or whatever. For my phone was a really bad one. I used to be really bad for looking at my phone constantly all the time. And part of the problem was I did a lot of traveling, and you like public transport, and it's boring as sin, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I so you grab your phone and you scroll and you do that, and that was, it was passing the time, but it was reinforcing something pretty bad at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, it becomes a learned habit.
It does.
Yep. When I was at college, I didn't have a phone that was smart enough to keep me distracted. I went to college in 2010, 9, 10, and 11. So I didn't have a smartphone back then. So luckily, like, all I had was music. So I would have an old iPod Touch, with no internet connection. Back then, there wasn't reliable Wi-Fi on trains at all. It was garbage, really, really slow and hardly worth it. So I just played music in the train and just looked out the window, and yeah, sometimes I didn't do anything. Maybe I just put the earphones in and then muted the audio just to be awkward, just so that no one would talk to me. Fun times. So yeah, moving on. So we've been kind of talking about individual instrument playing with regards to flow state, but I would say musicians have a different name for flow state when playing in bands, and this is commonly called groove or feel or pocket.
Yes,
that's flow state. It is flow state.
Totally. Yeah.
So when
100%.
you think about it, like, see if it applies, like, because we've got the knowing what to do, knowing how to do it, knowing how well you're doing all this. So we'll try and see if it fits all the criteria. So if you're jamming in a band and it's going really well and everyone's loving it, so you all know what you're doing, obviously. That's the goal.
Yes.
You know how to do it. Everyone knows what they're doing and how to do it. So that's the competence.
Yeah.
Everyone knows how well you're doing. Everyone's happy and like, oh, this is jamming really well.
Yeah, this is sounding good.
You know where it's going. So you know how the song goes, you know all the different parts, apart from the bass player, because they never know what's going on.
Hey.
You're a bassist, not a bass player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. I forgot.
If obviously the challenge of the song is challenging enough to keep everyone engaged and gives them an incentive to keep going because it's fun and it's like you're accomplishing new things that you didn't think were possible. I'll give you an example. There's a song that we play regularly that when we first started playing it was an absolute impossibility. It was technically extremely difficult and it took a hell of a lot of practice to get it proficient. Now, well, I say now, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows when we get back? It'll just all be like, how do all these songs go?
Yeah.
I'll need to go through that album.
Yeah.
And I'll need to
relearn
relearn it all.
Yeah.
Although I cringe sometimes listening to it because I'm like, oh, really? Was that the best decision at the time, Julian? Okay,
yes, it
cool,
was.
Fair enough.
It absolutely was. That's the whole point of making music, is you get better every time you release something.
Yeah.
So, like, I would say, yeah, definitely flow state is 100% the sort of the jamming groove feel pocket thing that a band has. So, with this knowledge of flow state's existence, what can you do to maximize the potential for flow state in a band? So let's bring it back to level up your band. So number one, we always say this: practice before you rehearse. Don't practice during the rehearsal. That's a habit everyone has.
If like somebody's brought in a tune last week, I mean, I've been pretty bad for this in the past and not done that. This is why we're saying you should do this. You know, learn the tune. You know, like learn the tune before the rehearsal.
Yep.
Don't learn the tune in the rehearsal. It looks bad.
Yeah.
And it just makes you, like people can tell. People can tell that you haven't practiced it. You know.
Oh yeah. oh, how does that bit go again? I forget. What's the chord there? No, you just don't know what it is, and you're trying to cover up for the fact that I just forgot. No, you didn't forget. You just didn't practice it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's holding everyone else.
It's better to just be frank about it and be like, I ran out of time. I didn't get a chance to look at this one. I'll do my best.
Even that's a cop-out. No, it's like, I couldn't be bothered. I had plenty of time, but I chose not to do it. That's usually the correct answer. People need to be more honest. And if this is the thing, like, if they are lying in that way, like, oh, I just ran out of time, which is usually crap. If they're saying that, why are you in this band? Why are you in the band? If you put it so low down in your priorities that you can't even practice, that's my philosophy. Like, just get your act together. If this is you, I'm calling you out.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the calling.
I'm not calling you out. I'm calling everyone else out.
No, well, it's like at the same time, it's good to realize, like, you know, I definitely was that person.
Same.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Like.
Oh yeah.
And you learn. You learn, like, like, you learn by just, like, it gets subtly called out, and then you're like, oh, they're on to me. I can't do this again.
Yeah. Yep. You're like, oh, is it a coincidence that Julian is playing badly and a new game's just come out this week? No, I'm joking. Oh yeah.
It's not a coincidence.
It's totally
just saying. Like. Anyway.
Yeah. So practice before rehearsal, because that just eliminates that little nugget. It means that you actually know what you're doing, and you know how well you're doing when you get there.
Yeah, man.
Second, focus on the process and not the end point, because music is a process. It's not an end point. Music, recorded music may be an end point, because you're like, oh, this is a recorded thing and it's the end point. This is the whole song as a thing.
Yeah, totally.
But music itself, the human practice of music, is not an end point. It's a process.
Again, like, for any of you guys that are listening to this who are also teachers, like, if you have a student that comes up to you and is like, oh, I finished the piece, gently shoot them down and be like, no, you can play it. Yeah. You haven't finished it. Because you will be, like next 5 years, next 10 years, you'll find something new in there.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a finished piece.
Yeah.
You can play it, but, like, you never finish it. There's no such thing as finishing anything. It's like that idea of, like, oh, I've done my grade 8. I have now finished flute. It's like, nope. There's still more to learn, man.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've done grade 8 on something. I've finished it. It's like
achievement unlocked.
No, you've met a set of goals, and now the world is your oyster, and you can literally do anything you want.
Yeah.
You know.
The funny thing about music is music can only be perceived in the present. It can't be like an entire piece of music has to be experienced moment to moment. You can't view the entire thing as a whole, like a picture, like a painting. A painting is an end point. A painting is an end point.
Yeah, totally. I like even movies are in a sense
the same
like
as
that,
music.
But they have a lot in common with paintings, in that you can go back and, like, I don't know, like each but you moment can't perceive is a portrait.
Exactly, yeah.
But you're still not perceiving the full thing.
Yeah. But the picture, you can sit and look at the picture and extract lots of different things from that one picture. But it is one thing that you can view all at the same time. Kind of. I mean, like, your brain can only perceive so much. It's, obviously, but music is it's a time dependent thing. You can't just like get a piece of music, get all the notes, play them all at the same time, go blah, there, full album done. Like, it's meaningless, right? And it's like chapters in a book as well. um, you can't just read, the first paragraph and the last paragraph and right. Well, I understand the ending.
Yeah, I get this. Yeah.
You need to know this. It's the journey that matters really more than the end point. That's the kind of that's flow state doesn't care about the end point. It's about the process, which is why flow state and music is so heavily intertwined, because music in itself is a process. You don't get flow state from a painting. You get flow state from painting a painting, because that's a process.
Oh yeah. Right?
Yeah,
totally.
You're not like you get flow state from listening to music as well. But I don't know. You probably could get flow state from just looking at a painting.
Well, I was gonna say, like,
not sure.
It's been a while since. I mean, I can't go and try it out for sure. But there's been moments like when I've been at the like Kelvin Grove, and I've seen. I'm not an. I know next to nothing about art, but I know what a good painting looks like. I know what I think what a bad painting looks like. I know what I like, which is probably nothing special. But there's been a couple of moments where there's a painting that captivates you, and you spend time, and you really go into it to the point where the tree isn't a tree. You see like the individual brush strokes that make up the tree, and like all the little blots of paint and stuff like that, and you can get mesmerized by that, and you can move through the whole thing. So yeah, totally. I've achieved flow state eating something delicious.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, like when something is so good that you just it stops like you're not hungry anymore. You're just like you're just taking in the sensation of everything that you're eating.
Yep.
Yep.
Same thing. So practice before rehearsal. Focus on the process, not the end point. So when you go into the rehearsal, this tune's not ready yet. This tune's not ready. It just creates anxiety. Just focus on the moment. Play the song. Keep playing it until you get that flow. Yeah. Otherwise, don't be like, it needs to be like this. It needs to be like this now. Like, just take it as it comes naturally.
Yeah, totally. And if it's not jamming, stop. Like, we've done this. Like, something isn't working, and you stop for a second. You're like, why?
Why is it not working? Yeah.
Why is it not working? And sometimes there is no answer. You just have to be like, we'll stop for now, and we'll come back to it, kind of thing. So.
And of course, number 3. Eliminate all distractions. So phones, chatting, and technical issues. There's probably more. But if you're in a rehearsal situation, I would say phones off. Just phones off.
Yeah.
Unless you need them for chords or whatever. But airplane mode, turning your notifications off, it's pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. If it's really bad, just be that guy. You're not going to be popular, but be that guy is like, right, all the phones in the phone box. Yeah. We're going to put it away until the end of the rehearsal, and some people are going to find that really hard. Yeah. And some people might quit. I'm joking. I'm like, if they quit because of that, then good riddance is all I'm going to say.
I don't like that approach because the reason why, because it gives the impression that you don't trust them with their phone.
Yes.
What I'd rather do is guilt trip them and say, no phones, and if I see the phone out, I'll call it out. And I'll call you out when you've done something wrong. I'm not going to take your phone off you because I know you're going to do something wrong. It's a different thing.
Yes.
So it's not, you're the problem, not me taking your phone away. That's what I would do. Because
actually, that's a good point.
It's happened to me. People have like, phone's in the basket for dinner. And then I'm like, it makes me feel really bad because I have self-control. I can keep my phone in my pocket if I want to. And it kind of insults me a wee bit that someone would want to take that off me because they don't trust me or whatever. So that's how I would frame that.
That's fair.
And then last, Push.
Oh, and just before we
Yeah.
continue, just the chatting, because I think it is quite it can get pretty bad, like when people don't realize
totally.
it. Structure breaks, like, and use that time then because obviously it's a social thing. You're meeting your friends. I'm assuming that the people you're working with, you're friendly with, so like you want to stop and chat about life and, depending on your age, how much you hate your wife, etc., etc.
Yes.
But anyway, so like schedule that time. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of chat at the very beginning of the session either. Just be sensible, be sensible about it, and like just try and limit it and just get to work.
Yep. I've seen some people. I've been in rehearsals where you spend the first hour just talking, chatting. It's like, come on, like it's
I
not
wonder
as bad.
what our first
What's that?
Sorry, I wonder what our first rehearsal is going to be like. It's just going to be like, we've not seen each other for a year.
We should probably go out for dinner or something first.
We should probably meet each
get
other
all
first.
that out of the way. That's good advice for everyone out there, because everyone out there who's listening to this who's from Britain will likely not have seen their bandmates in a long time. So when things go back to normal, I would suggest the first thing you do is meet up in the pub and go for dinner or do whatever you guys do first. Because if you go to the rehearsal room the first time seeing each other, it's just going to be a complete waste of time. You're going to spend the first 2 hours chatting.
Yeah, totally.
Especially if you're paying for it in a rehearsal room, and it's like, you might want to do that. I don't know. I think meeting up outside of the music thing would probably be a good shout. And technical issues is another one. I've seen people, guitarists especially, just through the entire rehearsal, constantly holding everyone up, twiddling with their pedals, and even in gigs, just spending an absolutely unnecessarily long amount of time.
Yes.
Large amount of time.
100% agree. It's always guitarists as well.
To the point where the gains that you're going to get from the little twiddle on your tone, the gains you're going to get from your tone is not equally proportional to the amount of time that's wasted. So, like, audience's time wasted, your tone that you've improved, it's much smaller. You're not gaining anything. You're actually losing overall. I was really badly worded. Yeah. I'm really sorry for that. It's an opportunity cost a lot of the time, especially in rehearsals when you're obsessing with the gear. Sometimes it's not the gear, it's you. If you can't make a guitar sound good with just a tuner and some amp gain, then, well, you've got problems. Unless you're playing U2, then maybe you do need a delay pedal. But there was a guy came in once with this pedal board. It had maybe like 15 pedals on it. Plugs it into the amp, and it just sounded like muffled, distorted garbage. I never really said anything because I was like, oh, like when you put your guitar through that many processes, it's never going to sound good. It's just going to sound garbled. Literally, I would bypass the whole pedal board. Maybe keep the tuner, maybe keep a boost pedal, and maybe a reverb, and then into the amp. 3 pedals, done. Like, if you can't get a good sound and tone with 3 pedals, then there's something wrong. So, lastly, push your playing to the limit of your skill. So that's as an individual and as a collective. So we kind of touched on that earlier with there's some songs that we as a band struggled to play and struggled individually. So not only do you have to be competent in your own part, it has to gel with everyone else as well. And when you push you're playing to the limit of your skill, it becomes fun because you're exploring unexplored territory. That's fun, especially when you do it well.
Totally. At the same time, like if somebody's written something for you and it is too hard, just be like, yo, this doesn't actually work. Like, this is never going to work. Because you will know. Like, once you get to a level of competence on an instrument, you'll be like, this is silly.
Yeah.
You know, you can still and suggest an alternative. Like, you can achieve this effect by doing this and this and that and the other. And then that's when fruitful conversation starts, you know, and then that's where the tune goes, you know, somewhere else. So
it's fun when it's a challenge, and it's a sufficient enough challenge so that you can perceive that you're going to be able to do it to start with. Because if you look at that and you go, there's no way we're going to be able to pull this off. It's way beyond our capabilities. Then, maybe do something a little bit in between. But if it's something you go, this is going to be challenging, but I think we can do it. When you actually get there and can do it, it's really liberating. It's like, we are actually playing this and playing it really tight and really together. It's great. That's flow. When you do something like
totally.
that.
100%.
So I guess, well, why should you care about this flow state? So I guess that's pretty easy. Flow state is kind of what everyone wants.
It's kind of epic, man.
Whether you like it or not, like it's not really music if you don't have it.
Yeah, it's not really anything, you know. Like if you never, you know, like I've played video games where I'm not in the flow.
Yeah.
You know,
it's not fun,
and then it's just not fun.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like flow state is that rush of like endorphins and euphoria you start feeling, you know, when you're doing something good.
Yep.
And you're enjoying the process. You want that when you're playing your instrument. If you're not achieving that, but you want to, you need to step back and go, what's holding me back?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So it's definitely, like, for example, I can speak from experience here. Like, I've never, for a long time, actually, this is going to sound like nuts. All throughout university, and the majority of the time I played double bass, I never once achieved flow state on the double bass.
Really?
Really. Like, seriously. I was thinking about it. And I used to just complain. I used to be like, I hate playing this instrument. It's stupid. It's big. It's bulky. My fingers hurt after practicing it. I'm not enjoying it.
Right.
And it was just because I was never, it was just something I was never able to achieve. Now that it's been like, I graduated in 2017, so it's been like 4 years, roughly, like three years and a bit. And only now I can pick up the double bass and I can enjoy it. I can just enjoy playing it for the sake of playing it.
Yeah.
You know, even in performances, I would just be like, ugh, this bloody thing, it sucks.
Yeah.
You know, like I would have to like think really hard on it.
Yeah.
You know, but now it's getting to the point where it's like, oh, actually, yeah, this is fun. This is good.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if it's what I've done different. I guess there isn't the pressure of like, I have exams and things that I need to do on this instrument. You know, now it's just like I can spend as much time as I want, just spending time with it. Do you know what I mean?
Could be like now you want to play it, whereas before you
now
had
I
to
want
play it.
to play it. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A kind of similar thing happened to me, although kind of different. Talked about it before, and it stopped me from getting into that flow, and that was pain. My instrument was causing me pain. Playing the drums caused me pain. This was about 5 years ago, when I went from, it it was about 2016 really. I went from playing like 15 gigs, 20 gigs a year up to 50.
Right.
So what was happening was the fact that I was playing more gigs illuminated the fact that my kit was set up badly. Because I was playing it so often, it became like obvious that there was something wrong because my back was aching every week. And then I was like, I'm not enjoying this. I hate playing the drums just now because it hurts me. It really hurts my back. And then I figured out, like, you know, I was messing around with drum stool height and tom height and cymbal height, and I eventually found a position with. I learned some things about like just the body, how it works, the anatomy, and the spine. I found out I was sitting too low. A lot of drummers do this. They sit far too low down in their drum stool, and it compresses their spine. So I raised the seat up so that my spine decompressed, and literally one gig I did this and I had zero pain, and that was in sort of at the end of 2016 or maybe 2017, because I'd had you know, a good year of this pain trying to figure out what it was, and since then I've had nothing at all.
Wow.
And it's never been an issue before, and I started enjoying it again, because there's nothing worse when you're not in that flow. I can imagine like playing exam stuff like in uni on an instrument that you hate playing. That's just not.
Yeah, man. I tried. I did my best. But really, like, what I got out of that, you know, and I was thinking of why I was having such a rough time, and it was because I was actually doing something I hated, and I didn't really know how to make it better. You know?
Yeah.
So now I'm in a position where I took like a mini break from like me and my double bass had a break for a bit, and now I can come back to it as a completely new thing. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. This is kind of fun. You know, there's definitely a lot of things I can do to make it a nicer playing instrument. You know, I could definitely do with a change of strings. You know, think like little things like that.
Yep.
You know,
I found that with drums as well. I don't know, there'll be a lot of people that'll be the same. I started on a Ludwig starter kit. It's just crap, right? So I got to the point with that kit. Something had to change. It didn't suit me anymore. I needed something a bit more substantial, and I got the Tama kit in 2009, and my playing doubled in proficiency.
Yeah.
In like a week, because the instrument was so much easier to play, so much nicer. Everything about it was just effortless compared to the other kit. It's sometimes as the instrument. Like violinists will say this as well. Like they'll have a violin that's maybe on the cheaper side, and then they'll fork out and get a really expensive one, and you don't have to work as hard to get a good tone out of it. It's so well made. It's a lot less work.
I was going to say
involved.
the same thing. But with this guy here,
Was that the Schecter?
Yeah, that's the Schecter. Made such a huge difference,
right?
You know, like, because it was, you know, it's easy to play.
Yeah.
It sounds great. You know, like, totally.
Yep.
100%. I 100% agree with that sentiment for sure. You know.
So there could be things in your, if you're not achieving this flow state thing, this is a multifaceted thing. There could be so many things. I suppose bad gear is a distraction because you're thinking about the gear and not the playing.
By the way, like, you can, there's, we're not saying here, like, you know, to be a better player, you need to get the most expensive instrument. That's not the point. It's about making the best out of the gear that you have. Like, I have, although a student's currently borrowing it at the moment. But I have a precision bass that cost me €99, and it plays great.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem. It sounds good too.
Yep.
And that was just, it's all set up. With guitars you can kind of get away with that.
Yeah.
But with something else like a violin or I don't know, something like a saxophone, maybe, things like that. Build quality comes with the price, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You might get lucky. You might get that one £250 saxophone that sounds absolutely killer.
Yeah.
But most likely it'll just sound a bit.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, that was an interesting topic.
I enjoyed that one. That was cool.
It's highly related to music and just creatives in general, I would say.
Yeah. If you have more questions about flow state, ask your local psychologist. Because they'll know more than we do. No, please get in touch, or just even with your thoughts on it, your own experiences with flow state. Any negative experiences as well, like me and double bass, they're interesting to hear from because people can learn from that. You know what I mean?
So one aspect I've not mentioned has just come into my head that can interrupt flow state as well. Roasters can interrupt flow state.
Oh,
right.
I know, right?
People are being roastery. If there's bad tension and bad chemistry in a band, like if that's hanging over you,
it just feels like a chore.
Yeah. That's another thing. So much can interrupt it. Yeah. Who knew? You have to actually like your bandmates when you're jamming.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. You'd hope that you'd be friends with your bandmates, If you're not, try and sort that out or get a different band. But you should at least be friendly.
Totally. Cool. So we'll leave it there. As always, if you are enjoying the podcast, we'd highly appreciate a review or a rating, wherever you happen to listen to it.
If you're on YouTube, leave us a little like and a subscribe and a comment. That all of that helps.
Yep, definitely. If you're we don't really mention it much. If you have comments on each individual episode, if you're like, oh, that's cool, never thought about that, or what about this, guys? Why don't you try this? Or any suggestions, you can either comment on the YouTube video, or just on the Instagram posts, because I post the thumbnails up on Instagram. So there's plenty of places you can leave comments. And if you don't want your comment to be public, you can just send us a message as well. If you've got any suggestions for episodes or guests or whatever you have. So also, if you're wanting to look at some of the PDFs, they're all available online for free. You can sign up. And we've got, I think, 5 or 6 different PDFs on various different things that will help you level up your band, incidentally. Some pretty decent resources in there and lots more on the way. I have no idea what we're going to do next week, unless you have anything that you want to...
We'll come up with something, I'm sure. We always do.
Yeah. So, we'll leave that there. Hope you all have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.